Hey, I'm TC, and I've been making videos on this channel for 1 year as of today. And over that time I have amassed 133 subscribers, gained over 5,000 views, and have posted 11 long form videos, not including this one. So I thought today we could have a look back over all the games I have made in the past year to see how I've improved. That's if I have at all. So buckle up and get ready. This is going to be a fun one. I started off the year by working on the now cancelled 2D platforming project called Watch Your Jump. At the time I was really into platformers, specifically Celeste, and I was playing it every day. Along with this, I was also following GMTK's devlogs on Mind Over Magnet, his puzzle game, and so one day I decided to sit down and make a game inspired by both of them. Whilst doing this, I was also aware that a hook can usually lead to a game being more interesting, so I came up with a platformer, but you have limited jumps. Well, originally it was meant to be a puzzle platformer, and I stuck with that for quite some time, but eventually after realising that I can't make puzzles, I changed it to be a platformer. And with that, we began the year, and what a start that was. I started off by completely restarting the project to convert it to a platformer, which of course required a solid player controller. Mine was a mix between different tutorials and me just starting to understand programming, so it wasn't the best, but it certainly worked. Along with that, I also needed a limited jump system, a system to make the player die, a system for controlling the camera, and a whole fleet of other, well, systems, which I slowly built up over the months. Along with this, I also built out some levels that ranged from I'm really happy with this all the way to I'm really not happy with this, what was I thinking? And along with this, I also made a lot of art which I am insanely proud of even to this date. Now even though I had to sadly cancel the project due to personal reasons, I would love to revisit it someday and finish working on it, so let me know if you'd like to see that. Now it's time for the next game I made. Woolly Roundup was a game that I made in a week with my good friend Ruben for the Fireside Game Jam 2023. The theme to this jam was Guide, and we decided to make a simple game about herding sheep from one field to another. Now the jam started off great. I made some basic tiles for the floor and the fences, followed by the sheep, which I was really happy with, and then I began to look into how A-star pathfinding worked. Now this took a while as it was my first time using it and there are a few bugs that needed to be ironed out. After it was working, I made a few levels and then added an outline to the sheep to show when they're in range. Along with this, I also added in a UI animation for when you win the level. But from this point onwards, things started to go downhill. I had a camp that weekend, so the plan was that Ruben would go in and add the final levels, and then when I got back, I could add in some polish and we'd be all good to go. The only issue is that I didn't have a good way of sending the project to Ruben. We tried one solution which we thought had worked until I got back from the camp and realised that the files were refusing to open on Ruben's computer. So I spent the rest of that evening adding in the final levels. Now this might sound like the biggest issue we encountered, but it pales in comparison to the fact that we didn't actually get to submit it to the jam. This was because I compiled it with WebGL, and because of the settings that were on in Unity, it took an age and a half to build. Even though we didn't actually get to submit it, I'm still very happy with what we created in the time that we had and with our knowledge at the time. There are still a few issues with the pathfinding, mainly the sheep getting stuck in these corners so that you can't actually finish the level, but overall I'm very happy with it. And the lessons learnt when compiling for WebGL came in very handy for later game projects, especially for my next game, which I made with my friend Snowball the Anvil for the GMTK Game Jam 2023. The GMTK Game Jam. Now that was a wild ride. First off, this is my fellow game developing friend Snowball the Anvil. I have known Snowball for years, and even did my first game jam with him, and I really want to do this one specifically with him. And during that time, Snowball the Anvil was the person who not only came up with the concept of the game, but also the name, all the 3D models, and he also voiced one of the characters in it, which is amazing. The jam theme was roles reversed, and the plan for our game was to make a puzzle game, but you could swap the properties of different objects. And over the 48 hours we had for the jam, we just about managed to achieve that idea, but there were some major problems with it. The main one being the swap system was terrible. It worked, but there was no visual feedback when the player did anything, which was a huge issue for people. So after the jam ended, we sat down and decided to spend the next 8 months of our lives turning the Game Jam game into a full product. Or at least a demo. Before we did that, I decided to make something else first. I was inspired to make super noughts and crosses because of a vscause video I watched in the early hours of the morning. I had no idea how I was going to make it, or even if I could with my limited skills at the time, but nevertheless I decided to take on the challenge, and I'm very glad that I did. Initially I followed a bunch of tutorials to get a normal version of noughts and crosses working, but after that I departed from the tutorials to attempt the rest on my own, trying to escape tutorial hell. Throughout the process of making the game, the main thing I learned about was how loops worked. In fact, with all the games that I've made over this year, each one has taught me a different thing about game development and how I can use it to more efficiently create games. Supernauts Across didn't take that long to finish, and I even made an update for it about a month later. But I couldn't completely focus on it because Snowball and I had started working on upgrading Flux, and that was requiring a lot of attention. By the way, if you want to play any of these games you see here today, they are all available to play for free on my itch.io page, which is linked in the description. Anyway, now on to Flux. Now, with the Flux phenomenon we set 3 goals, and we've hit 2 of them so far. These goals were releasing a private demo, which we did a few months ago, and then releasing a public demo, which I'm pleased to say we did a few weeks ago, and so far the reception to it has been great. I want to talk about the development of Flux in future videos, so today I want to tell you about our plan for the future of the game. Now that we have our public demo out, we plan to go back over all of the feedback we have gathered from our players to improve the core systems of the game. Following this, we then want to finish writing the story, which apparently we haven't done yet. After finishing the story, we will then convert into the remaining chapters of the game. Now if you've played the demo, you will have already seen the first chapter, and if you haven't played the demo, then you definitely should. But in the final game, we plan for there to be around 5 chapters, but that could all change. After that, the final steps will be adding in polish and music, followed by releasing it to the public as our first commercial game, which is very exciting. Now I actually made 2 other games this year that I haven't mentioned in this video, but this is because they're getting their own videos soon. It's just that the Flux phenomenon has been taking up a lot more of my time recently, so I haven't been able to work on it. But it will be out soon, I'm just not sure when. But that wraps up my first full year of doing game development properly. Again, if you want to go and play any of the games that I've mentioned, then go check out my itch.io page in the description. Overall, I'm really proud of what I've created and I'm really looking forward to what's coming next. The Flux Phenomena later this year, the next GMTK Game Jam, and some other projects too. Thank you so much for watching, subscribe for more, and have a great day. Bye!